Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Pretty Privilege series on this channel. If you're new here, we talk a lot about pretty privilege, the psychology of beauty, internalized beauty standards, and this channel was created for Black women who are mixed or Black women who look mixed. So maybe you're not racially mixed as far as DNA, or maybe you've never taken a DNA test, but for whatever reason, you are benefiting from isms, colorism, texturism, or featureism, and a lot of people accuse you of benefiting from those things, or they mistake you as being mixed race. So that's who this channel is for. Be sure to subscribe and check out the rest of my content. My goal with this YouTube channel is I want to have an entire library of hundreds of videos discussing all of the nuances of the things we talk about on this channel. So every video on my YouTube channel may not be for you, but that's okay because I understand that YouTube is you're just here for entertainment and to just watch. And the point of my videos is to make you think. So if these topics are triggering for you, you should not be on this channel because this channel is not for women with inferiority complexes. It's not for women who don't have pretty privilege or don't want pretty privilege. If you don't have or want pretty privilege, you will probably be very offended by this channel. So please unsubscribe if that's you, because if you come into my channel bashing people in this community, you'll immediately be banned. So just want to make that disclaimer. But I want to talk to you guys about how I gained pretty privilege. Well, I'm going to talk about how I had pretty privilege, lost my pretty privilege, and became quote unquote average, and then how I gained it back. Just because you were born pretty doesn't mean you're going to stay pretty. A lot of people don't realize that weight gain, that is something that can take away from your pretty privilege. Aging badly, having skin issues, having things change with your hair. Maybe your hair is thinning or like you got alopecia or something, dressing down. Those are all factors that actually affect your pretty privilege. And a lot of people don't realize that a part of pretty privilege is environmental. So this is why I say on my weight loss series, part of why you're a beluga is because you have nowhere to go. You have no fancy events going on. There's nothing to look forward to. And so I think that one of the disadvantages that I've experienced in the past is if I live in a city that's boring, or I hang out with boring people and I'm boring, then it demotivates me. It demotivates me because I'm like, okay, looking pretty for who? For what? To go where? Putting on makeup to go to the grocery store, to the corner store. So I think it's really important when you are doing your own pretty privilege journey, it's important to answer this question. Who do you want to be pretty for? Why do you want to be pretty? If you were a 10 out of 10 tomorrow, if you woke up tomorrow and you looked perfect, then what kind of life would you be living? Where would you go? Would you move cities? Would you try out for something? Would you do some sort of pageant or something? Would you make music? Some of you guys have gifts and talents that you're not tapping into because you have a fear of being seen, because you feel like your pretty privilege doesn't measure up. I've met so many women that are very good at singing, or they're really good at playing an instrument, but they're too scared to create music because they feel like they don't fit a certain beauty standard. So all of those questions are important to ask yourself. Why do I want to be pretty? What's the point? Also, I'm very biased because I just feel like there's something about beauty that makes you feel like the world is at your feet. I genuinely do feel like people who have achieved pretty privilege believe in themselves more. I feel like a lot of us are much more adaptable. And I can tell you that as someone who has embraced my pretty privilege and someone who has been ashamed of my beauty. I just think that you show up in the world differently. And a lot of people, they think that this channel is vain, or like me talking about beauty is vain. No, your beauty is actually a form of dignity. It's a form of self-care, and it helps you to show up differently at job interviews. It helps you to show up differently when you move to a new place. And I don't like when people try to say oh, everything is internal. No, everything is not internal. Your self-esteem is internal, but sometimes your motivation comes from outside of yourself. Part of the reason why I show all of these pretty images on my YouTube videos, it's my way of subconsciously brainwashing you into becoming pretty. That's literally what it is. It's like a form of subliminals. For those of you who believe in subliminals, that's what my images are. I want you to see yourself in the images that I show. Another thing that demotivated me from having pretty privilege is hanging out with ugly people and in ugly environments. And you guys know me, I don't tend to call people ugly. but I don't know what other word to use. I guess I'll just say people who are leveled down, people who don't care about beauty. And then, you know, those religious women who try to tell you that like beauty is not important. It's all about what's on the inside. And if you're not a nice person, none of it matters. So they're constantly trying to deflect. So whenever you say something like, "Oh, I was thinking of trying this new hair color," they constantly deflect and they make it like there's something wrong with you for wanting to look your best. Yeah, those are the types of environments that will demotivate you from your pretty privilege journey. Another thing is inferiority complexes. Never listen to women online with inferiority complexes because they're going to guilt trip you. They're going to make you feel like no matter what you do, you're still going to be at the bottom because you're too dark or you're too black or you're not white. You know, they've always got some reason as to why no matter what, you'll never fit a beauty standard. That's another thing that demotivates women from embracing their pretty privilege. So, if you guys watched my other story times about my childhood and my introduction to things like colorism, texturism, featureism, or just beauty in general, you guys will know that from the time I was a child, apparently I was seen as pretty because adults would often talk about my looks or whatever. That's not bragging. I'm not saying that like I look better than everyone in the world. So I always had this pretty privilege or whatever. So, but it was so much so to the point where I did not know that it existed. I didn't know that pretty privilege was a thing because I thought that what others were calling pretty privilege, I thought that was just the normal experience of being a girl. So things like people telling you you're beautiful all the time, or people like, you know, giving you free stuff, or from the time you're a child, maybe adults commenting on your beauty or giving you like, I don't know, a free frisbee. Like I remember one time when I was a kid, this random guy, he gave me a free frisbee. He was like, "Oh, I'm giving away stuff at the park." It was like this work event. He was like, "I'm giving away toys to the prettiest girls in the park." And then he like gave me a frisbee. This is when I was a child. It was like at this work picnic. So I thought that those types of things were just experiences of being a girl, or I thought those things were just like maybe a guy being nice, or just the nature of men. I thought that men in general just kind of hold doors open, or they try to talk to girls, or they try to, I don't know, get your phone number, date you, ask you to dances or proms, or take you out to dinner and all that. Maybe getting in the club for free or something. I thought those things were just normal. I thought that was a part of being a girl, and that no matter how you looked, that was a normal experience. It wasn't until I lost my pretty privilege that I realized that I had lived my whole life with this pretty privilege, and I did not know that that's what it was. So, I've talked about this in other videos. By the way, if the audio keeps changing, it's because I'm switching microphones. I don't record all of my videos in one sitting. Sometimes I take a break and then I come back. But I knew that I lost my pretty privilege because I was used to people always staring at me and looking at me and kind of admiring me or complimenting me, or even staring at me in envy, like giving me dirty looks. And so, one of the main ways that I knew my pretty privilege was gone, well, first of all, I got very sick. I told you guys that I've been very sick before, to where I lost like 75% of my hair. I don't usually talk about stuff like that on YouTube, but yeah, so I became very sick. I had like rashes on my face, and so I couldn't wear makeup anymore. It was a side effect of a lot of the health issues that I was going through at the time. But I feel like that's a more dramatic example. Obviously, I wasn't that sick for that long. One of you guys wanted to know how long it took for me to gain my pretty privilege back. It took anywhere from about 3 to 4 months. And I would say that, like, there was another time where part of me losing my pretty privilege was because I stopped working out and eating healthy. And then same thing, like I had issues with my skin, my hair. Basically, it was a form of self neglect. So neglecting myself for a long time, overworking myself, working multiple jobs and just like not caring. And then also there was a time in my life where I lived in a really, really small town. I mean, this was like a super tiny town to where nobody cares. Like literally, if you wear a pink hoodie, you are dressed up in this town. So I feel like that was a part of what demotivated me as well. And so nobody really cared. So I didn't care about my looks because nobody else cared about my looks. Also, I had no desire to be visible at the time. So I didn't care about like posting cute pictures on social media. I told you guys I actually took a break from social media. Actually, maybe I didn't tell you guys that. Maybe I only talked about that in the Patreon. But yeah, so you guys know that I have not always been on social media. Um, so I did take a break. I didn't have any form of social media. So no Instagram, no Facebook, no like nothing. And so that also demotivated me because I'm like, who cares? I live in this tiny town, I'm taking a break. I was enjoying being low key, if that makes sense. Because sometimes when you're very pretty privileged, you feel like there's this form of hyper visibility that you have. So if you're hyper visible, it means that people are obsessed with you. They're talking about you. They're gossiping about you. They're stalking you. In some cases, maybe they're even trying to dox you. They want to figure out who you're dating, figure out where you live. So I understand what it's like to be the pretty girl that gets treated like a celebrity, and you have people trying to invade your privacy. So that gets exhausting. And so that's why sometimes you'll see these pretty privileged women where once they hit 30 or once they graduate high school, once they graduate college, they finally have a space to breathe. And they're finally just in this place of solitude and privacy. And so some women, they actually get a little bit too comfortable because they're like, oh my God, I'm no longer in high school. I don't have people trying to fight me. I don't have people gossiping about me. I get to just enjoy my life and enjoy my privacy. And so I think that that was one of the things that also demotivated me, and it caused me to gradually lose my pretty privilege because I was trying to heal. I was trying to go through this period of emotional healing where I was like, oh, let me just not care about any of this stuff. Okay, so do you guys remember Michelle Phan from YouTube? She was a beauty YouTuber and then she stopped doing YouTube. I was similar to that. I had a similar experience where it was like, I spent my life being this quote unquote pretty girl. And for once, I just want to be able to release this pressure to be pretty, or like this expectation of being pretty. I just want to see what it's like to not have to be pretty. Like, what is it like to just be regular? And I know that a lot of women who are regular or quote unquote medium ugly, a lot of those women are thinking, oh, that's a lie. Nobody wants to be in my position. And it's like, no, that really is true. Sometimes you want what you don't have. So just like how there's a dark side to being ugly, there's also a dark side to being beautiful. So sometimes when pretty women go through a lot of trauma in regards to their beauty, it makes them want to take a break from their own beauty. So yes, that's what I did. And yes, that is really a thing. Sometimes you want to take a break. Sometimes you don't want to go work out again. You don't want to meal prep and eat chicken every single day, grilled chicken and salmon. You don't want to do that. Sometimes you don't feel like doing your hair routine and like putting all the oils on it and stuff. So you just want to kind of let loose. So for a little bit of backstory, I used to do like modeling and stuff when I was younger, from the time I was a teenager up until, I don't know, I guess my late 20s. So I lost my pretty privilege. I would say I started gradually losing it in my 20s. So I want to talk about what caused me to lose my pretty privilege. The first thing that caused me to start losing it was by not knowing that I had it. I had never heard the term pretty privilege. Other people would tell me, oh, this guy's only doing that because you're pretty. But I just thought that those girls were maybe they just thought that they were ugly or something. So I still never believed them. But I would say when I was at the peak of my pretty privilege, I noticed that anytime I've had the most pretty privilege, it's been when I'm doing the most self-care. Also, the way that I've always measured my own pretty privilege is based on the small details of my appearance. So, for example, having healthy skin, not just on my face, but also on my whole body. So, no eczema patches anywhere. Like, my feet are smooth and pretty, my hands are smooth and pretty. So, when I say that I felt like I was at the peak of my pretty privilege, that's what I mean. I mean, there was pretty much nothing. When I looked in the mirror, there was pretty much nothing that I felt was taking away from my beauty because I was always spending a little bit of time every day working on those things. So, for example, I used to get like ingrown hairs on my legs. And so I remember I used to get the bentonite clay and do a clay mask on my legs. You're not supposed to put it on your legs. I'm pretty sure it's only supposed to go on your face. But I used to do face masks on different parts of my body. So that's what I mean when I say at the peak of my pretty privilege. It's not based on the male gaze or how do I compare to other women, but that's how I measured it. I measured it based on like how much self-care can I give myself? There's no such thing as doing too much self-care. So besides now, looking back on the last time that I had the most pretty privilege, it was when I was single. I wasn't talking to any guys. I was like single and celibate because I was very devout Christian at that time. And so I had a lot of time to not only work out, but I had a lot of time to like make fruit smoothies. And like I used to have this hobby of creating all of these healthy meals for myself. I would cook a lot more often. I would cook from scratch and stuff because I had more time to do that. I would go on all these long walks. And those are all things that are a part of self care. And it helped increase my pretty privilege at the time. If you want more info on that, check out the beauty series on this channel. I'm also going to be doing beauty tip videos on the member section of this channel because I don't want random spies who are not a part of the Pretty Girl Club to get access to the secret information. But I didn't realize that all of those self care things were increasing my pretty privilege. So at that time in my life, I was still quite male centered. So even though I had technically decentered men because I was a Christian and like staying a virgin until marriage and all that, um, once I graduated college and moved back to my hometown, I immediately was like, okay, I'm ready to like find a husband or whatever. And when I say find a husband, I'm not saying like chase after men, but I was focused more on wanting to get that part of my life checked off, for lack of better words. And part of this was because of my Christian upbringing. So I was around 23 years old when I met my ex husband. And by the way, I am not blaming my ex husband for me losing my pretty privilege. I just want to tell you the journey of how I began to lose it slowly. So, as far as how long it took me to lose my pretty privilege, it took me about 6 years, actually. So that shows how much pretty privilege you actually have. I mean, if it takes you all the way until age 55 to finally start looking bad, that means you had a lot of pretty privilege. You had decades worth of pretty privilege already stacked up. So it took you a long time to lose it. So it took me around 6 years to start getting rid of the pretty privilege. And then it took around 4 months for me to really feel like I gained it back. Okay, so in terms of losing it, I don't remember if I talked about this before, but I went from about a size zero waist all the way up to somewhere around like Meg the Stallion size. So I would say around probably like a 12 ish. And I know that in the black community that's not fat and whatever. Okay, but it was big for me. But it didn't take me a short amount of time to get there. It took 6 years. And I remember looking back at my Amazon cart and looking at the clothes I would order, and it went from size extra, extra small. Then 1 year later, size extra small. A year after that, size small. 1 year later, size medium. 1 year later, size large. So it was a very slow creep of losing my pretty privilege. This is why I've learned in my 30s to keep myself accountable and keep myself on track. I'm a person that needs data. So if I don't have any data, like if I'm not using a scale, that's another thing. I wasn't using a scale. Part of it was because I was so tiny and skinny. So I didn't really need a scale. It's like if I look in the mirror and I'm super small and I go out and I'm smaller than everybody, then I'm skinny. But as time went on and I got more distracted with things going on in my life, I noticed that I stopped holding myself accountable. So, yeah, I didn't have a scale. I did not have a step counter app yet. I wasn't tracking my calories and protein and all that. And by the way, when I say that it took me 4 months to gain back my pretty privilege, what people don't understand about pretty privilege is that you don't have to be the most perfect woman in the world in order to receive pretty privilege. As long as you cross the threshold of being quote unquote above average, you're going to receive pretty privilege. So when I say that it took about 4 months to get it back, what I mean is that within 4 months, it was really weight loss that made the biggest difference for me. What I mean is that within those 4 months, I was able to receive a form of pretty privilege again. So even though it may not have been on the same level because I still had other things to work on, I still was getting the pretty privilege though. So that's all that matters. It's, do you have pretty privilege? Yes or no? Because you can't really quantify how much pretty privilege you have. Like, oh, I have to have perfect teeth, a perfect side profile. No, I didn't have all that stuff when I got my pretty privilege back. So that's why I feel like if you're struggling right now with pretty privilege, I want you to think about the time in your life when you felt the most beautiful. What did you look like? What did you get the most compliments on? Was it your body shape? Like, what do you feel made you the most pretty? But something else that started taking away my pretty privilege was I didn't have any beauty hobbies anymore because, especially once I got into a relationship and I got some friends, I didn't have as much time to go hiking. That's one of my main hobbies. You guys know, especially if you're in the Patreon, you know that I love hiking. I love going on 4 miles, 8 miles, 10 miles, 14 miles. So I will do these long ass hikes. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that's actually a beauty hobby. That's actually a form of working out. That contributes to your beauty because that's actual exercise. But back when I was younger, I wasn't as mentally aware. And so I was doing it like, oh, this is just fun. Like, I don't know, it's kind of a workout, but it's like easy. And then I get to look at the trees and the birds. I'm very much a nerd like that. I love looking at like birds and animals and like the frogs and everything. But I didn't do that beauty hobby anymore because my schedule became overtaken with my social life. So even though it's a blessing to have people in my life that love me, it was still causing me to gradually start to like fade away from my personal hobbies that I used to do by myself. So this is why I say that like it's good to have friends, but it's also good to have time to yourself because when I felt the most leveled up before that, like kind of in my earlier 20s when I felt most leveled up, I was actually in a time of isolation. I was in a period of isolation because I remember I had just cut off my friend group because they were very male centered. They were very catty. They were like doing all this crazy shit all because they were jealous over like men and stuff. So I remember decentering those friendships. So I had no friends for a couple of months and I was just focused on like finishing school and everything. And then I had more free time to like do my long hikes or to wake up at 5 a.m. or to like make my smoothies. That was another hobby that I had stopped doing. So I was not just a fruit smoothie person. By the way, I just picked up this hobby again over the last 30 days and I'm so excited about it. But one thing that I would do is I actually liked experimenting with fruit smoothies. So trying out different fruits. So not just blueberries and bananas and strawberries, but no, maybe next time I'll try passion fruit. And then I would try dragon fruit. And then I would try kiwi. And then the next time I would put a little bit of almond butter in there. And then after that, I would put a little bit of chia seeds and flax seeds in there. So I was creating these beauty hobbies and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a whole beauty regimen going and I had no idea. Like I was not very aware that that's what it was. It was a beauty regimen. Something else that contributed to weight gain was spending all of my time helping others or running errands for other people. So let's be honest here. Pretty privilege is really about time management. It's really about time management because it takes time for you to like grow your hair or to lose weight. Whatever it is you're trying to do is going to take time. Straightening out your buck teeth, whatever you're doing, you have to consistently show up and you have to create a goal and like do the same thing over and over for you to meet those goals. So something that took away from my pretty privilege was not managing my time properly and then also being too tired from work. I remember there was one point where I had two jobs. One of them was even a graveyard shift job. So, stuff like that, not getting sleep, working a graveyard shift, that's technically not good for your body. It's actually not good for your circadian rhythm. So, that's a part of why I stopped doing that. But I was in survival mode. So, at one point, I felt like I was in survival mode, even though I really didn't have to be in survival mode. I don't know. I guess I just wanted money. So, I was just kind of prioritizing other things instead of prioritizing pretty privilege. But what I learned over the years is that your privileges stack on top of each other. So if you abandon one thing for the sake of the other thing, you're going to still end up going back and trying to attain that privilege. For example, if you have spent your life acquiring money and then you're ugly because maybe you neglected your pretty privilege or you just weren't focused on your glow up. Now once you have that money, you're going to end up still spending all that money on trying to purchase the beauty. Look at like the Kardashians, for example. Kylie Jenner is a good example of this. I know that she came from generational wealth, but for example, a lot of women who get money, if they feel like they are average looking, they're going to end up spending their money on their beauty. So it's like there are only two ways to attain beauty: either you spend your time or spend your money. So even if you were born pretty, like in my case, if you're born pretty, you still have to spend time to kind of like maintain that beauty or kind of develop your beauty. That's another thing too. Like you will learn over time how body composition works and like how does your hair like to be taken care of? How does your hair grow the fastest? So a lot of people don't realize that there's a very steep learning curve when it comes to managing your own appearance. So as far as how I gained my pretty privilege back, so just for context, I was young, I was poor, so I couldn't afford to just go purchase like new makeup or like purchase by the way, I was not aware of wigs. I got my first wig at 27 years old. So I didn't grow up where weaves and wigs and lace fronts and all that shit was something that was an option. So like that's just a picture of how unaware I was when it came to beauty enhancements. I thought that wigs, when I thought of wigs, I was thinking of like Beyonce. So I was thinking of like very, very expensive, $500 to $1,000 wigs, and then you have to get it done professionally. I didn't know that I could purchase like $5 or like $20 hair. You know how they have like the bundles or like the braiding hair and stuff. I was so unaware of that. Part of that came from not growing up in African American culture. Weaves and wigs are a part of African American culture. I said what I said. So because I was not I wasn't super entrenched in African American culture yet, so I wasn't very aware of like how to do all these different things in terms of hairstyling. Like same thing with the whole edge control and all that. I just wasn't really focused on that, I guess. I didn't feel like that was a requirement for beauty because I didn't feel like my hair in its natural state was ugly. I didn't feel like my hair looks bad if I don't have my edges slicked down, or if it's a little bit frizzy, that means it looks bad. So I didn't have those insecurities, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I also needed to learn all the different options that I had, because a lot of people, they'll come on this channel and they'll be like, oh, Exoticals United, I need to get a rhinoplasty. I need a nose job. I need a boob job. I need to get a lace front. And it's like, wait, do you even know all of your options before you jump straight to like a surgery? And I'm not against surgeries, but it's like a lot of people don't know that there are natural remedies. So back when I was like super poor, I would do a whole bunch of DIY stuff. So I would make my own shampoos and conditioners, because that was back when my hair is naturally very fine. So my hair can sometimes like break off or shed depending on the styles I do, and I couldn't afford the Shea Moisture $10. I remember it was $10, and I was like, oh my god, it's $10. I remember feeling like that was expensive for a shampoo because I was used to using like Dollar Tree shampoos. By the way, shout out to VO5. I love the VO5 shampoo, the Dollar Tree one, the shampoo and conditioner, the green one. That's my shit right there. But yeah, I was used to Dollar Tree shampoos and conditioners. And then if I didn't have the money, guess what? I would go into my kitchen and I would look up, okay, what seasonings, how can I make my own shampoos? So I made my own shampoo. I would use like apple cider vinegar. That naturally helps you to kind of like cleanse your hair. It smells disgusting though. It smells terrible. I just want to warn you. But it helps you to balance the pH of your hair. So that helped restore that extreme shine to my hair. The shine that people used to get jealous of, where they'd be like, oh my God, you dyed your hair. Oh my God, that's not your real hair. Oh my God, you must have permed your hair because why is it so shiny? Yeah, apple cider vinegar. And then I discovered that you could do a clay mask on your natural hair. Like, the bentonite clay that I was using as a body mask because I couldn't afford to like go to the spa and get a body mask. So I found out you can actually use that on your hair as well. So then I would put the mask on my hair. It was basically like a cleansing and detoxing mask. So I started researching all these different natural remedies, so that I didn't have to spend money. And then I found out about baking soda. Baking soda is another holy grail that I would use for all different kinds of things. It can help you get rid of like acne scars. It can help you get rid of like tan lines if you have tan lines on your body. I used to have a lot of mosquito bites. I don't know if other people experience this, but whenever a mosquito bites me, it always leaves a bump, and then it always ends up leaving a scar because I will scratch myself in my sleep. So on my legs, I remember there were multiple summers where I got so many mosquito bites all over my body. It literally looked like I had hella acne scars just all on my body. And I used to scratch myself in my sleep, and then it would leave these little circles, like these little dots, basically. It looked like an acne scar. But yeah, so I learned about like baking soda. I learned how to use all the different stuff that you would have in your pantry, and that was my new beauty routine. So I didn't have to buy stuff because I had several uses for everything. So like the apple cider vinegar, I was using that on my skin as a toner. I was using it on my hair as a cleanser and as a way to help restore the shine. I was also using it, I was drinking it because I heard that like if you drink apple cider vinegar, like it's good for you, it contributes to weight loss. So that's already three different uses for one product that is just found in my kitchen. So that was how I was able to kind of start getting back the pretty privilege. I was fighting for my life, okay, when it came to my beauty hobbies. It was like, look, I'm going to be broke, but I'm not going to be broke and ugly, okay? So I'm going to figure it out. And then as far as like my nails and toes, because I see a lot of women online, I see a lot of level up content creators. They'll be like, oh, your nails and toes need to be manicured and you have to like have this professional hairstyle. No, actually, you don't. You don't, because nobody is staring that hard. And if they are staring that hard and if they're judging you that harshly, like, oh, her nail polish was chipped, so I'm never talking to her, then fuck those people. I don't have to do this super luxurious beauty routine in order to have pretty privilege. So I feel like one of the flaws that I see with a lot of content creators online, it's like their only option is you have to do the most expensive luxury option. Like, oh no, your only option is you got to get a 24-inch bust down and then you have to like go get it professionally done because you can't do it yourself. No, you can DIY certain things. In fact, I'm so glad that I know how to DIY so many different things. Do you know how many times I got away with fake hair and people thought it was real? The key to that, all you have to do is get hair that's slightly kinkier. Get kinky hair that's fake. Just do the kinky hair and then they're going to think it's your real hair because in their mind, they're so self hating in the black community to where they think nobody wants to have kinky edges. Nobody wants to have kinky hair. So if you get a wig that has kinky edges, then they're going to think it's your real hair. So I learned how to use reverse psychology to make myself have more social status, honestly. But I want you to think about the time in your life when you felt the most beautiful. What was your routine like? What were you doing every day? Were you skinnier? Were you thicker? Were you more tan? Were your teeth straighter? Like, what were you doing that made you feel so beautiful? And how can you, like, redo that? How can you incorporate that into your routine now? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.